My friends, hello. I read a really wonderful article by Harvard Business Review today. It was talking about inclusion and what inclusive leaders do. And it's really around this conversation of diversity, equity, and inclusion that is growing throughout the business world right now. And what does that actually mean? I was talking to somebody about a month ago, and they're like, what does diversity, equity, and inclusion even mean? Is that like, critical race theory, or what does it mean? And so this whole conversation has been politicized and has gotten pushed into kind of directions that are unhealthy, when really the whole point of diversity, equity, and inclusion, and inclusion in general, is to create an environment where more people have the opportunity to be heard and contribute positively. And if we really think of it from that perspective, how is that harmful in any way? It's not. It doesn't need to be a politicized conversation like it's become. In this article, it was really neat. It was talking about how there was an increase in high performing teams. There was a 17% increase in high performing teams, that high quality decisions had increased by 20%, and that 29% of teams believed that they behaved more collaboratively when they had an inclusive leader. So if you're looking for higher performing teams, higher quality decisions, and more collaboration, being inclusive is clearly something that Harvard has proven with a 4,500 person study to be a helpful thing to do. So this is something that we take what we know works and we use it, and that's how we grow and improve our teams and be the best leader that we can be, right? We take what works. What was neat is they focused on a number of items here. They focused on visible commitment to inclusion, and what that was really talking about was demonstrating authenticity. That it was really that this is something that is meaningful, and holding people and themselves accountable to being an inclusive individual. Humility was another thing that they talked about, and really being humble and being modest about one's capabilities, as well as owning mistakes. We've talked a lot about this throughout all these videos that we've done together, that just owning your mistakes and being human is really an incredibly meaningful and valuable thing as you're trying to develop followers and develop yourself as a leader. Being humble and having humility is important. An awareness of bias and recognizing blind spots was something that they talked about as well, that inclusive leaders need to be able to do this effectively. What's neat about this is, and this is where it starts to get tricky, is bias, and the conversation around bias is heavily politicized. But really thinking about, you don't know everything. I don't know everything. And one of the things that I've really tried to do over the last 5 years or so is to surround myself with people who are not going to just blow smoke when I ask them for my opinion, or for their opinion, but rather tell me what their opinion is, and what their perspective is based on the actions and behaviors that I'm exhibiting. And if I am having a blind spot, that their responsibility is to help me. And so that has helped me tremendously, particularly working with volunteers and teams that I've built over the years, is to ensure that I have a quality and diverse team by having people that I trust hold me accountable to my own blind spots. Curiosity of others and having an open mindset to really hear without judging, and understanding other people was one of the other topics that they discussed. Cultural intelligence, which is really having an awareness of individuals with other cultures that are different from your own, and then modifying accordingly. So a good example of this is if you were a teen or a young adult in the early 2000s, there were words that were used then that are just not acceptable today, particularly derogatory terms towards the LGBTQ community. It was more commonplace. It was never acceptable, but more commonplace 20 years ago. And now recognizing, like, you don't use those words, right? I mean, that's just obvious. This is cultural awareness, cultural intelligence. And then finally, effective collaboration. So this is empowering other people and inviting others to the table to contribute in a positive way. These were the 6 categories that were discussed, and things that, if you're doing these already, you're probably an inclusive leader, or well on your way to being one. So I've included the article. It's actually, I thought it was quite good. It doesn't have a political lean, as I think some of these conversations around diversity sometimes do. It was pretty clean article that has a lot of great feedback and insight for you as a leader, and what you can do to incorporate inclusivity into the work that you do, so that you can have higher powered teams, higher quality decisions, and greater collaboration with inclusion.